Hey guys, I'm Billy Hume, and today I want to talk about the things that you as an artist, engineer, or producer should be doing when getting ready to work with a mixer, or the things that you should do while you're working with a mixer. I got some technical stuff, some details I'm going to go over, but first, I kind of want to go on a little rant based on my 30 years of mixing, things that I've seen, things that I've experienced that frankly made my job a little harder and made it harder for me to do a good job for my clients. When you're hiring a mixer, you're usually paying the mixer by the song. They're going to just charge you a flat fee to do the song. But that doesn't mean that the mixer has unlimited time to just keep working on your song day after day. We have schedules, and there is only a certain amount of time I can spend on your song mixing. If I like you and I think you're really cool, and you've been easy to work with, I'm going to probably spend a little more time on it. But I'm going to spend as much time as I possibly can within reason. And the reason I'm saying this is because you want to make sure that when you hire a mixer, the mixer's actually spending all of their time mixing your song. You don't want the mixer fixing stuff that should have been already taken care of when it showed up. For instance, if I got to go through a track and hunt down track by track pops and clicks because somebody didn't put their fades in, didn't have crossfades in there, didn't have fades at the beginning and the end, that's time that's, for me, wasteful. Another thing that happens a lot is people send me sessions and things just aren't even named right. And I'm going to go in a little more detail about the whole naming thing. You got to put yourself in my shoes, right? I'm sitting here day after day staring at a screen, and I got these little names across the bottom, and I need to be able to navigate very quickly, right? If I can't read clearly what's going on, and it just adds up over time of looking for things because they're not named properly, it's a waste of damn time. Also, do not send multiple sessions for one song. Sometimes somebody sends me a Pro Tools session, it's got an instrumental and some vocals in it, and they send me a separate session with the instruments in it, and they want me to combine it. And sometimes they're at a different sample rate, or they're not synced up, and it's like, here's what's going to happen. I'm either going to call you and say you got to pay more money, or since I scheduled it for that day, it might put your session back 2 weeks. And then the third thing that happens is it just pisses me off. It just pisses me off, and I want to be excited about what I work on. Why make my job harder? You do your work, and you deliver to me what I need to mix, okay? Another thing that happens a lot is when you're exporting from a DAW, if you're going to send a mixer audio files, it makes every audio file a stereo track, even if it's mono. You know what? Take your time and export your tracks separately. Bounce them one at a time. It might seem like it's taking a little extra time, but you know what? The extra 30 minutes it takes you to do that is going to be worth it. I could go into all the technical reasons. Just trust me. If it's a mono bass track, do not bounce it as a stereo file to send to the mixer, okay? It's always a good idea to send a rough mix along with your files or your session files to the mixer for a couple reasons. The main reason being that it gives the mixer the ability to verify that he's got the right files in the right session because it's going to match up, hopefully, with what you've been listening to. It's also kind of good for me as the mixer to know what you've been listening to. It kind of informs me that what you've been hearing and what might be important to you or what you've been used to listening to. Another thing that's really, really, really important is when you actually get the mix, the first mix from the mixer, and you're going to listen to it, don't listen on computer speakers, okay? I mean, if you want to initially, that's cool, but make sure you're listening to it on a good system. Go listen in your car, listening to it on a stereo. Make sure you're listening on systems that you're used to, but listen to something with some big speakers on it. I've literally had people call me up, tell me they like the mix, and I'm like, cool. And then 2 days later, they're saying something about the bass or the drums, and I'm like, well, you liked it before, and they're saying, oh, well, I just listened to it on my computer. So listen to the mix, give it a day. It's going to sound different than what you're used to listening to, but, give it some time to soak in. And I suggest that you trust the mixer. Like, you hired this mixer for a reason. You didn't just hire the mixer because they know how to hit buttons and stuff like that. You hired a mixer for their taste, not just their skill, but their opinion and their taste. They might know what the hell they're talking about. And as far as listening to the mix, like when you're home listening to the mix, not only should you be listening to this on a good system, but you gotta quit listening to the rough mix at a certain point, okay? It's really easy to get attached to that. Even a crappy rough mix you can get very used to. And there's a certain point you just need to quit listening to it. Just stop. Stop listening to the rough mix and driving the mixer crazy. You can't like, hey, he did a good job, but I kind of like, it's like throw it away. Trust the mixer. And if you don't trust the mixer, you probably shouldn't have hired that mixer. When you're finally ready to send the mixer some comments or revisions on the mix, make sure to keep the communication simple and focused and very direct. Only one person in the band should be communicating with the mixer. You don't want a bunch of different people communicating at the same time. It's also very important that when you respond to that first mix, version 1, put all those comments in one email from the band. Also make sure that all the comments are in there. Don't send one email with some comments in there and then 2 days later send some more comments. He's probably already gone in there and worked on it, and then he's going to have to go in there again. Once again, just wasting time, pissing people off. You know what I'm saying? If you've got specific things in the mix that you want to change, like, hey, in the second verse, or in this part, or this guitar part here, send a timestamp, okay? Look at the MP3 that you got, or if he sent you a WAV file, whatever player you've got, wherever this change is happening, 2 minutes, 22 seconds. Put that down. You have no idea how much time I waste when I'm trying to look for something and they haven't given me a timestamp, or they, for some reason, can't tell. Timestamps will save me a lot of time so I can focus more on working for you. When you get to the point where you like the mix, you've approved it, think everything is good, make sure to have the mixer also do an instrumental and an a cappella of the mix. There's good reasons for this. One is that if you ever want anybody to do a remix, they're going to at least need that. They're going to need an a cappella, to redo it. But also, if you're going to license this thing for a TV show or a movie or something like that, there's a good chance you're going to ask for an instrumental. If you're going to ask for stems, make sure you know what it is that you want. Because from my point of view, when somebody says they want stems, I'm like, well, what do you mean? Because from my point of view, a stem is something that a movie mixer used to ask for many, many years ago. Nowadays, people say stems. They could mean anything from each track bounced down separately, which I charge extra for because that really takes time, or they need something for performances. You need to be very specific what you want on a stem. For example, you might want the drums, but the percussion separate. You might not have a guitar player, so maybe you need all the guitars on one stereo stem. Or maybe you just need all the keyboards in separate stems, or maybe they can all be together. But you need to know exactly what it is that you want. Because I can assure you, virtually every time I make stems for people, they never completely communicate with me. And I send it to them and they go, oh, well, I actually needed, it's like, come on, man. Because that's something that you're going to be charged by the hour for. It's not something that's included in the mix. All right. So I think I'm done with my ranting. Let's take a look at a couple technical things here. All right. So first off, when you're getting ready to prep your session to send to a mixer, the first thing you should do is save a copy of the session and call it Prep for Mixer. Also, go ahead and delete any tracks that aren't being used. Do not leave tracks in a session with mute on. And let me tell you, that really confuses me. When somebody sends in a mix and there's a track there with a fader up and the mute on, am I supposed to use it or not? And then I call up the client like, well, I'm not using it, the mute's on. Delete the damn thing. Come on, man. Also, make sure that you've removed all deactivated tracks. Do not leave any hidden tracks in the session if you're in a Pro Tools session or a session allows you to hide the tracks. If you just want to be sending what you want mixed. Remove all plugins from each track. The only exception for this is if there's something very specific you've done on a track, like maybe you've got the telephone sound or something like that, or maybe you played guitar into Guitar Rig. Obviously, you need to bounce it down like that. Put it back in the session, get rid of the original one. Delete all automation from the session. The only time I'd say to leave any automation in there is if there's a very specific thing going on with a panning thing that you really want, in which case you want to send that in, or if you're bouncing it down, bounce it as a stereo file. Make sure to clean up your audio. Go through, as I stated before, Make sure that all the fades are taken care of. Make sure there's no pops and clicks. Make sure if there's any noise in between things, go ahead and clean this up. Don't leave this to the mixer. You should have everything ready to be mixed. Also, make sure to clearly name your tracks. Make it easy for me to figure out what's going on. You don't want something saying vocal 1, vocal 2, vocal 3, and maybe one's a lead vocal and one's a double. How do I know? Name the lead vocal. Name the double. With guitars, keyboards, stuff like that, be very specific. Like if one guitar is supposed to be like a main part, call it main guitar. Don't leave any ambiguity whatsoever about what I'm looking at. Don't name your tracks in all caps. Take a look at this. This is what I see right here. I can't tell quickly looking down at this thing what I'm looking at. Let me show you a couple things you should be doing. First off, you can try typing like a normal person. Check out how this is different here. You see? Look at that. Also, you can abbreviate things. So when you're going to be sending in audio files to be mixed, not as part of a DAW session, just raw audio files, make sure that your sample rate and your bit depth is the same as the session that you recorded it in. You don't want to be doing any kind of conversions. Just send in exactly what you had when you recorded it. Before you bounce these things down, take off the plugins, take off any extra effects. Also, depending on how you're going to be getting the files out of the DAW, it could either be bouncing or exporting. I think that can make a difference in what the level is going to be. I know that if you're going to be bouncing out of Pro Tools or Ableton or Logic, if your fader's down lower because that's how you set up your rough mix, I'm going to get a file that's going to be kind of quiet. It's going to be down here. If that's how you're doing it, you're bouncing it, make sure you turn that fader back up where you had it when you recorded it, or a little down. Don't slam the levels. Don't get it into red. Give me a little bit of headroom, but get it up there. Leave me at least 3 dB of headroom, but give me something to work with. Often when you're exporting from a DAW, you're going to find that in the process of exporting these files, it's going to put the name of the song, then the track name. You don't want to do that, because that means that I'm going to have to sit here and rename that. And let me show you why. Here's what it looks like in my DAW when I import that stuff. Here, check this out. This is what I see. So then I got to go do this. I got to go rename all this stuff. I either got to go through and name this in the raw files, or I got to do it within the session. Do not, under any circumstances, ever send anything to anybody where everything is called audio file. That's just terrible. So I think that's all I got to say about mix prep right now. If you got any comments, leave them. If there's anything I missed, let me know. Maybe I'll do an addendum.